foundation code, and he showed me what he was able to do, and I said, well, you know, this is amazing. If you can do this for hydrocarbons, why can't you do this for minerals? Because I'm more of the mineral side. And he said, we can, but we've just never had a trustworthy enough partner to calibrate and work on the code to have it work for the minerals. So a little bit of explanation on the basics. So everything on the periodic table has a specific vibration to it, right? Which has a certain frequency, right? Don't quote me on this, but it's like gold has 7.482 hertz, right? That's what it resonates at. That's what it vibrates at, right? All atoms vibrate. You vibrate, I vibrate. We all have our own signatures. All minerals, anything on the periodic table also has its own signature. So the question is, and part of what we're using here is proprietary software to us, and some of the satellite technology is not proprietary. It's available to anybody that wants to basically lease satellite time. But again, you know, highly specialized stuff. You can't just be anybody and be able to, you know, get access to live streams from Maxar or Airbus, the major satellite providers. Although the industry is opening up greater and greater, there are more independent satellite companies that are coming online now. There's a lot in Silicon Valley, and in fact, one of our preferred partners is in Australia, and they 3D print their microsatellites. They call them box satellites now. They're not these big Hubble, you know, telescopes that they launched in the 70s and 80s. These are about as big as a microwave, and they have solar panels, and they send them up. And there's literally, as I'm sure you're well aware, Elon Musk and Starlink, you know, he's launching literally tens of thousands of satellites that traverse the Earth that will provide Wi-Fi internet connectivity to everyone, everywhere. So the technology has really advanced. So what we're using satellite time from historical Landsat existing satellites, and we're currently in the process of finalizing our own deal with an aerospace company to have our own proprietary dedicated satellites to this work. So somebody asked me earlier, you know, how long does it take you to do this? And it just depends. It varies from we need the satellite passover, right, or the scan to capture using specific equipment on the satellite, like a spectrometer, the metadata that's coming from the vibration or the frequency that's in the ground. And then we basically take that data and we interpret it through our own proprietary algorithms that have been built over time and calibrated using real world examples. So they would find a target somewhere in the world, they would say, there's gold here, there's silver here. I would go fly or travel to wherever that area was. I would find it by GPS coordinates, and I would dig it up. And I would say, okay, we were off by 6 meters to longitude, we were off 4 meters to latitude, you know, and we would hone, and we would you know, curtail, and we would basically make it more and more precise. And so we've got it to the point now where it's very precise. Sometimes there's hiccups, sometimes there's always things, but for the most part, we can get on top of any target, 2D, two-dimensional, that we want, pretty much anywhere in the world now. And it works for hydrocarbons, and it works for minerals. It really will work for anything on the periodic table. What we're focused on are the raw commodities, natural resources. Some of the other kind of branch benefits and other technology that we're entering into are like soil moisture content from the satellite for agricultural land. So we know when we're assessing new blocks of land whether or not it's, you know, it's rich soil farmland because of the moisture content. We can tell from pulling it from the spectrometer that are on the satellites. Make sense so far? Wow. Okay.
For soil, like would you have to do tests throughout the year or throughout the growing season to know how moist it is?
Yeah, you want to continually do that because it'll change. That's right. I mean, something may be moist today, and a month from now it may be dry. But again, it's a tool to use. So everything that we do is somehow rooted or based in technology to give us that advantage, right? So I'm not going to bore you with the history of time, but obviously I'm old enough to have gone through the dot-com boom, right? And yeah, and I watched a lot of people make a lot of money off of technology. And again, I made a lot of people a lot of money off technology. Unfortunately, I wasn't in a position then to take advantage of that particular time and opportunity. In the digital currency space, we were in a position to take advantage of that and apply some of our physical technologies and marry it up to the digital currency revolution that's happening now. So just a little disclaimer, all digital currencies are encrypted. So calling it cryptocurrency is not hyper-technically accurate, right? There are different flavors of ice cream when it comes to digital currencies, right? There are meme coins that are based on nothing. There are different tokenomics that govern different types of projects. We're unique in the sense that we use the blockchain to link physical commodity projects to a convertible virtual reward that can then be transferred into a convertible virtual currency. You with me? Because technically, when you mine your rewards, they go into your piggy bank, and then when they go into your piggy bank on Debtbox, you have to move them over into your wallet. That process turns it from a reward to a convertible currency. These are very minute things, but they're very important for regulatory reasons. So we don't sell investments, right? We sell technology. We sell software. We're a software sales company. That's what we do. Okay. Nobody controls how successful this will be. We have great influence over it, but it's decentralized to the point that once we put it in the system, it's out there in the ether and we can't pull it back. So again, I know you guys kind of understand all this, but I just want to restate it for anybody that doesn't. So again, what we saw, and again, I've been studying CVCs, convertible virtual currency, since 2012, right? I started paying attention to Bitcoin during 2014. I didn't understand it. I read the white paper. I've written white papers. I've written patents. I mean, I can read. So I learned it. Thought it was too volatile. All the things that everybody else said. So really, the Debt Council sat down and we really tried to come up with taking all the great attributes that Satoshi came up with and that Ether created, and dispense with the bad parts that they couldn't have foreseen, like the energy draw from an ASIC chip miner, and move that into the cloud, right? Virtual private servers, right? Little badge of honor that we like to call out is that, just recently Binance just announced that they're starting cloud mining, right? We were 13 months ahead of them. We were 13 months. That's our jam. So we were very proud of that. I think there'll be a story coming out at some point that calls that out, because again, this was a very hot contention within the Debt Council initially, because we didn't know how it would go, right? And again, nobody has a crystal ball, but we tried to set ourselves up for the best chance for success. So again, the virtual and the synthetic hash rate that goes with our model is unique to us. And now there's other people that are following us, right? And again, it's like following us, or they're coming up with their own model. I can only speak to what we're doing. I can't speak to what other people are doing. But when you see Binance make an announcement like, oh, we're getting into the virtual, cloud mining business, digital mining business, it's like, hey, okay, we're going in the right direction, guys. That's a really good road sign. So it's fantastic. And then again, really what I'm about to show you is one of our core technologies. It's not our only core technology. We have several, but everything we do is rooted in technology. So if there's a technology out there that we can apply to any of these commodity generation businesses, trust me, we're on it. We'll find it, we'll apply it, we'll figure out how to make it work for us, to make us more efficient, better, cheaper, because that's our edge, right? This is what all the main tech, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Microsoft, Apple, is what these guys did, right? Is they took, Steve Jobs took the Walkman and put it into, a pod, right? Not that not that revolutionary now when you say it like that, but back then, I mean, that was the start of it all, right? Here we are, iPhones. You know, we're talking about Apple cars, we're talking about this, we're talking about that. And then just on the idea, I'm also an environmentalist. You know, I come from a family of earth movers, right? My grandfather founded one of the largest earth moving construction companies in Canada at one point in time, back in the 70s. And, you know, I grew up on heavy machinery, so I move, you know, cubic meters of earth. My father is a civil engineer, so I know how to move earth, right? That's what I do. Or that's what I was taught to do by my family business every summer. While all my friends were in Southern California surfing the waves and skateboarding in Venice Beach, I was up in Canada in Saskatoon building roads and dams and freeway approaches, and I hated it at the time. Now I thank my father for it because I'm a little older, a little wiser, and now I realize it was prepping me for this, right? So we have a lot of exciting things. I don't want to go too fast, so if at any point you don't understand something or you want me to stop, just tell me to stop, and I will. Please feel free to ask any questions. I'll try to be as thorough as possible and give you the idea. So I'll start showing you the stuff now, but I tell you a quick story. So roughly, you know, 4+ years ago, came back to Ghana. We had gotten to the point where we had perfected this technology to the point where we were ready to show it, you know, for prime time. And I sat down with I was lucky enough to get a meeting directly with the CEO of the Minerals Commission here. And these are the guys that control the permits to mine in this country, right? You have to go through them. So this is the CEO. This is the top guy at the top agency that does this. So if you want to do any business, you got to go through him. So I came here and I sat down and I told him what I could do. And he said, I don't believe you. He said, you know how many people have come in here and told me that they have this magic box that can show us where the gold is, and this, that, and the other, and the Chinese and the Russians and blah, blah, blah. Not real. And I said, no, okay, great. I said, I'm a doer, right? I'm not a talker. I don't like to talk, although I can. But I want to show you, because I'm not here to give you a physics lesson or a science lesson. It wouldn't be appropriate. It would take way too long for me to try to do that. So let me just show you how it works. And if I show you how it works, then fair enough. And if I write, you know, if I do it at my cost, then you have no reason to say no, right? So if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. I'm not crazy enough to come into a foreign country in Africa and lie to you, right? Because I'd like to go home to my family. And again, if I'm here and I'm lying to you, then, you know, I'm going to disappear, and that wouldn't be good. My wife would be very upset. Or at least I think she would be. Anyway, have to check the size of that life insurance policy. Yeah, exactly. She asked me about that on my last trip. When are we going to get this thing up? I'm like, yeah. You and your next husband will be very comfortable. So anyway, all jokes aside. So he said, okay. And I said, listen, just present me with 5 properties. Obviously, I won't know where they are. I wouldn't be able to do anything prior. Just show me. So they went over to the other side of the room. They picked 5 properties. They came back. And honestly, if I'm being honest, I picked the smallest one because I knew it was going to happen. I knew we were going to scan it, and I knew I was going to be able to show them where all the minerals were. And then they were going to go, okay, great, now go dig it all up, right? We're not Newmont, right? We don't have an open checkbook. We can't operate on that level yet, right? We're striving to get there. But I knew that this was going to be a challenge, so honestly, the only reason why I picked that property was because it was the smallest by square footage, right? It was about 11.68 square kilometers, which is about 4.2 square miles, right? It's a very large area. It contains an entire village, probably population somewhere 25,000 people, right? So this is not small areas of land. These are vast stretches of land, and this was the smallest. Some of them were in the 150 to 160 square kilometers. So by comparison, 12 square kilometers is tiny compared to some of these other ones that they said. So we picked that one, and they said, why did you pick this one? I said, you know, I basically made it up, right? I said, well, it's proximity to Accra, and it looks like it's flat, and I can get in there, and, you know, I didn't want to say it because, you know, I don't have the money to develop 160 square kilometer property because I knew it was going to happen. So I said, okay. And it turns out Newmont has the mine like within a stone's throw of that area. So it was just dumb luck. So I'm going to show you that. We scanned that in 48 hours, and this is what we found. Oh, sorry, let me back up. I teed this up. I don't know, some of you guys may have been out to Nebraska and saw our oil well there. So I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this is the scan. See that, if I zoom out, right, like this is 1 square of land. So I think that, it's broken into 4 for the purposes of size. And I'm not sure how many, I think this is maybe 40-acre parcels. So you're looking at about 120 acres here. So you start to get a sense of the scope of this. So this is a big oil anomaly, right? And it's residing at about 9,400 feet deep. Okay, we drilled this well. We've drilled this well and we've now cased it in Nebraska. Some of you went out there and saw it. It's now cemented in. We drilled through 7 zones, 7 different zones in the strata. The strata is a cross section of what the subterranean looks like, and there's different levels of sedimentary rock, sand, clay, gravel, and porous rock where the oil pools, right? So this green area is a shallower pool, and the orange area is the deeper pool. And we drilled this hole down to a depth of 10,000 feet. So, and we did that. Our guys did that. We actually own 4 drill rigs in the U.S. And so we used our drill rigs, but we hired a crew to come in and do this. I don't drill oil wells. I just find them. I find where they should drill, and then they drill. Make sense? Yeah. All right, so that was Nebraska. And I just gave you that for context. So let's zoom out here. Head over to Africa.
Prior to this technology, how accurate has previous technology been in comparison to now what you're doing?
So it's a good question. So the technology was very rudimentary, and it was only possible going back maybe a decade. And it was really used for offshore oil and gas exploration, because offshore oil and gas exploration is extremely expensive. To have an offshore drill rig is a minimum of $1 billion, and I'm not making that up. It's like $1 billion. If you're going to get into that business, you got to be ready to write a check for $1 billion or more. That's why the barrier to entry is very high. So only big companies like Total, Shell, Exxon, British Petroleum are able to afford to go do these things. But once they find them, I mean, they're literally tens or hundreds of billions of dollars, and they go for a long time. So, but I'm not a geologist, but I work with geologists all the time. And so logic would dictate, right? If there's offshore, and that offshore find is near a shore, then it's most likely onshore too. So here in Ghana, as you see, this is Ghana. This is the Gulf of Guinea. All the offshore action is right here. All the big boys are there. BP, Vital, the Italians, the Russians, the Europeans, and America. Shell was off. Well, Shell's Dutch, but I think the Shell subsidiary that owned just sold to a local content company. It was like the first Ghanaian offshore content company in history to take over that concession. And they're currently have discovered oil and gas, and they're currently pumping natural gas and oil onshore for refining. And then in Tema, which is towards the east part of the country, is where they have a grade A refinery, the Tema oil refinery, where they refine that crude oil into petrochemical products, diesel fuel, petrol fuel, aviation fuel. And in fact, when Air Force One flies through Africa, it stops only in 2 places, Ghana and South Africa. Those are the only 2 places that Air Force One can be refueled with aviation fuel, because of the refineries are at that level. Nigeria is coming online with a brand new refinery from, how do I pronounce that, Dangote. Just built a several billion, right? $10 billion dollar refinery. So, and again, in Africa, here's Nigeria here, and then Angola right here is a very oil-rich country. So you look at these countries, right, and this is the Gulf of Guinea. There's a bunch of oil here. Nigeria is known about the offshore, so there's all this action going on here. Obviously, Nigeria is very well known for their sweet crude oil, and a lot of it, right? That's why there's 350 million people there versus Ghana's 32 million people population, so much different. But this is what, so we applied to the Petroleum Commission, and we were granted, our local content partner was granted the first exploration license onshore in Guinean history. So we got 2 concessions to start, and this is what we found.
And this is what's right next to, you talked about the gold mine.
Yeah, this is oil and gas right now. I'll move to the gold in a second. So this, I was on the oil tip and then I jumped around. I'm sorry, I'll go back to that. So this is what we found. So these blue and brown and dark areas are different layers of the strata for crude oil. And then the big kind of teal is natural gas, and it's about 20,000 feet deep. So it's very deep. But as I was just talking with Roy and demonstrating, we just drilled a hole that was 10,000. So half the depth in Nebraska that we're going to drill here. So we're capable of doing it because we've already done it, right? We just got to go twice deeper.
And our proprietary technology allowed you to be able to find that.
Yeah, to be able to locate it. Drill it is different.
How deep can the technology penetrate in the...
So it can go down miles. It can go down. It can go down a couple miles.
The site in Nebraska, hadn't it been drilled before, but they stopped at like 7,000 feet?
Yeah, I mean, well, coincidentally, there's generally in the oil and gas industry, they keep pretty good records of all the different dry holes, fields, and what we found in that entire area was there was a lot of drilling done, but they all stopped at like 7,300 feet. They didn't go any deeper.
Is that the max depth for like a smaller rig? Is that why they would stop at that?
Yeah, it's about that, right? Because our small first rig was 7,500, and that's about as deep as it could go. If we went any deeper, we could snap the top off.
So having that technology allows you to get the proper equipment.
Yeah, exactly. There's a good point. Yeah, it sets you up for what you need. Because again, if you're 20,000 feet deep and you only if you drill a dry hole, but you only went down 7,500, it didn't mean that it wasn't there. It just means you didn't go deep enough.
Right.
That's it. And again, until the technology got caught up, people didn't know.
Acres from gold, right? Inches from gold.
Yeah, and again, that's the same thing in the gold. Is it doesn't follow a straight path. Although all of our renderings are straight. I'll show you in a second. But again, you could dig a hole right here, and you could have missed it by 2 meters. It could be right over here. You just missed it, but you didn't know. So again, and the exploration in this industry doesn't matter if it's minerals or if it's hydrocarbons, right? These raw commodities. This is the most expensive portion of the program, is the exploration, right? Because typically what happens is in the process for gold, you go out, you believe something leads you to believe that there's gold there, maybe by the topography or certain geological structures that the geologists see, and not all geologists are created equal. Some are much better, more experienced than others. I've worked with a range of them, all the way from green to guys that have been doing this 40 years. And generally, it's the older guys that can just look and they can tell you, yep, it's there, no, it's not. And that's not magic. It's because they have 40 years of experience and they know what to look for. The technology, to answer the question, came online about 10 years ago. It was really done for offshore exploration. They were looking for signatures that were radiating out of the sea to be able to give them a better idea of where to drill, right? Because it's so expensive to drill. So based on that, they were able to, get on top of the target and then start making offshore finds. And then once they proved that it worked, the technology was refined and got better and more accurate. About 5 years ago, we got involved, and we were saying, well, if you can do this for hydrocarbons, why can't you do this for the minerals industry? And they said, we can, but we don't have a trusted partner to go out in the field and help us work on the code and calibrate the algorithms. Because again, everything on the periodic table vibrates, so they could find the signature, but the problem was wiping away all the other noise of all the other minerals, and we helped zero in on that, right? I was telling you before, each element on the periodic table has its own frequency signature, but the problem is that when you take a scan of that particular area, you're hearing it, all those frequencies are coming through all at once. So you need to drown out, or you need to mute all the other. So you're not looking for granite. You're not looking for copper. You're not looking for quartz. You're not looking for this. But you need to quiet those so you can hear or see the frequency that's coming through at that particular, kilohertz or hertz, right? So it's like a band in a radio when you're tuning a radio. It's like, and then it tunes in and you can hear for a minute and then it goes off. So these are bands in the spectrum. So a spectrometer will pick that up, right? So it's just physics. And again, you're just trying to narrow the band to boom. Once you get to the frequency you're at, you've got it. You've locked in on the signal and now you know. But that's only part of the battle. Now you need to be able to render that so it's actionable. So how do you take that data and then how do you render it into something that's actionable from the guys on the surface? Sorry. Hey, buddy. Yeah, I'm in the middle of a presentation. Can I call you back? Is everything okay? Hold on. He needs the names. Joseph. Just hello. Yeah. It's a phone. So anyway, so what I was saying was that once you zero in and you lock in on the frequency, you've got it. But then you've got to be able to interpret that data and render it so that somebody, a driller or a miner, can action it, right? And that's again part of our proprietary side is we've got specific techs, right? Surveyors that we've trained that can interpret the data and then say, okay, we're gonna render these targets so that they're actionable from the people that are actually getting after the particular resource. Does that make sense?
Are there a lot of people that do what you do, or would you say it's pretty proprietary? There's nobody that can do what you do?
We know very few. We know maybe 2 other groups in the world that are trying to do this. One was in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So they're kind of MIA at the moment. And there's another one, but they're nowhere near where we're at. We're way ahead of them on the software side. So, and again, that's more than half the battle, because anybody can take the photogrammetry and start analyzing the metadata. But if you can't make sense of all the noise, you can't hear the song through all the background noise. You got to be able to move all that away to be able to zero in on it. Otherwise, it's not effective.
And that's why companies hire you guys. Then the debt partners come along to bring you in to reduce their costs.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly right.